So the first question I always ask is about the call to adventure. So I describe that as like Lord of the Rings. You've got Frodo in the Shire. Gandalf comes along, gives him the ring, and he's got the choice. He can either stay in the Shire, leave Gandalf with the ring, or he can take the ring to Mordor. And it's that one moment that essentially flips his life upside down and takes him from the life he's living to this completely different one, and that starts off the journey. And I always just ask, what was your call to adventure?
Do you want me to answer that now?
Yeah.
So I probably have to go back to when I'd just turned 30, but it was more like 1 or 2 years later. I work in tech, so I was sat on my ass all day, sitting on a computer, and I smoked and I drank quite a lot, and I was just a standard sort of Welsh person, go out on the weekend, go drink most nights. But I knew I turned 30, and in my mind I was like, I can't. This is unsustainable, and I'd tried the equivalent of couch to 5K in them days, and I bought a bike and been for little rides with my friends and all of that sort of stuff. And then I got a new mountain bike through. No, I just bought a new mountain bike. Decided this is the time I'm going to go for it. But my friends who were into mountain biking took me to Cwmcarn, and it was like that childhood feeling of we going down going down a hill, and like I got up, and I just had the most fun. It was like being a child again. And I got up that next day and I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't go to the pub. I couldn't do anything. And all I could think about was when I was going to go mountain biking again, even though I couldn't move. And when I say couldn't move, I struggled in work all week. And every week after that, I went mountain biking. And then I'd given up smoking loads of times in my 20s. You know, I'd give up for a year and then I'd start again. But there was different need then. It was all about being able to go mountain biking. And then nobody could understand. I joined a Caerphilly mountain biking club. I'd go riding with them. Nobody could understand how I was so slow. And it was like, I have no fitness, none at all. And yet, but they're like, you're riding. And it got to the stage I was riding 3-4 times a week. And everyone was like, how are you so slow? How does it, you know, when you could see people getting upset that you're taking so long. And for me, the call to action was just fun. It was just pure enjoyment out of life again. It became the thing that inspired me to get to do everything. And then I realized, you know, being the person everyone's waiting at the top of the hill for, I had to take things seriously. And I'd be on Mountain Biking UK reading about how you're supposed to train for things. And then everyone would say about this, there's the Joseph Friel book, the Mountain Biking Training Man Bible. And I think it's like he started off with the triathletes training Bible. So I read that, and then I put together a proper training plan, and I did like heart rate zone tests and all of. I'm a nerd, right? So I do all of that sort of testing. And then I know, like years before, I'd be living in Cardiff, still smoking, still out in the piss all the time, and I'd be like, one day I'm going to do Ironman, and I'd think, yeah, it's just one of them lofty goals. But I knew there was a triathlon club in Pencoed, and so in my mind when I was cycling, I was like, well, I need to start road cycling, because if I do road cycling, I'll get loads of zone 2 training, and I'll get loads of faster. So I bought a road bike, and then I started road biking as training for my mountain biking. And then I got really into road biking, and then I joined the triathlon club, Pencoed Triathlon Club, and I would just go out on their cycles. And you could see I was annoying to them because I was the slowest person, and I'd go swimming with them and do all of that sort of stuff. But mountain biking was the primary concern. And then all of a sudden, I'd say 2012, I started to do events, and I started to do better than everyone else in the club. And I was like, oh, this stuff is beginning to work. And I'd say, so that year, I did 24:12, which is like 24 hours round a track in Plymouth or something. Some great event. I didn't do particularly well at it, but that was my A race. That was what I'd set my whole sort of cycles around and my phases, and that's where I was going to peak. and it went reasonably well, but like conditions wise, it was a bit bleh. It wasn't like the best performance, but I did it solo, and I think people mostly do teams, and I did it right though. I felt like that was that. Now, but then I thought, right, I've done that. Now it's time to look at triathlon, see this dream about perhaps doing an Ironman, and so I signed up for a half Ironman in May 2013, and I trained all winter, proper following my plan. Here I go. I'm gonna do all my phases, and I'm gonna do all my training, and then I peaked for it, and I smashed it in a way that I didn't think I was capable of. Didn't think of. I mean, I'd lost quite a lot of weight by this point, but I didn't think would be possible. So immediately there, I signed up for Ironman Wales like 3 or 4 months later, thinking, it's all right, I'll do an Ironman now. I've just shown I can know how to train. It's great. And then I trained reasonably well for my Ironman, did a great swim. The bike went okay-ish, got off the bike and couldn't walk. And that really sort of handed my ass on a plate to myself. I was in agony, and I finished it. I made it reasonably before the cut off, but we're talking I hobbled the whole of the marathon to get there, and then it was that point I thought, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly, and I paid to have coaching, and so I paid to get a coach, and I spent the year being coached and for Ironman the year later, and then I took like 4 hours off my time from the previous year. But also the biggest part for that, and the big learning for me for that, was strength and conditioning, which I'd not done previously, and how much of a net positive effect did it had on me. But I'd done Ironman then. I've completed that. I ticked off that. Even before that, in my mind mentally, is what's the next stupidest challenge that I can do? Because, yeah. And that, I guess that's my call to action, is whenever I complete what I think was a call to action, it's never enough, right? I'm always looking for the next silly thing. Yeah. And then, so then I discovered, or I heard, reading Cycling Weekly or something, I discovered that there's this type of cycling called Audax, which is like a old man sport, but it's like, like cyclists do the sportives, and they go for, I don't know, 100 miles or whatever, and they have aid stations and all the rest of it. Audax is like that, but you get given a card, and you have to just go to a cafe and get someone to sign it or put a stamp on it to say that you went there. Really cheap, but they start at 200 kilometers, and there's a thing called a super randonneur where you do 2, 3, 4, and 600 in the same season. And I was like, right, that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to do a super randonneur. And then, this is 2014 was when so that's 2013. 2014 is when I got coached, and then started to do. 2015 is when I started to do Audax. So, but there's also they're like the Boy Scouts for old people, to be fair, Audax. So there's like another award for randonneur around the year, which means you do a 200-kilometer Audax every month for full 12 months. So I started that too, and I was giving because like it's not about going fast, it's about doing the distance, right? And in fact, a lot of these folks call it full value, because there's like a maximum speed and there's a minimum speed, and they try to go to as close to the minimum speed as they can to enjoy themselves the most. And then they go into the aid stations. Well, they're not aid stations, they're just like shops or whatever, and sitting down having beans on toast and sitting there for an hour, and then just keeping their time at exactly the sort of the lowest speed limit, which for 200 is 15 kilometers an hour. So it's reasonably easy, but that includes you stopping and stopping for whatever. But this is like loads of great zone 2 work for me, building loads of aerobic capacity for myself, and I'm getting fitter and faster than I ever thought possible. So then I decide, I've always fancied Everesting. Have you heard of Everesting?
Is that just trying to match the elevation of Everest on your runs and stuff?
Yes, but you've got to do it on the same segment, and you've got to run up and down the same segment. So you can't like go up and do a loop or something. You've got to go up and down, and the timing costs for both. So then that year I Everested the Bull, which is like a famous climb locally. I don't know if you know it. So I did that. while continuing with doing the super random of a 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4 and a 600, and then I'm going to do Ironman Mallorca that year because I decide I want to go sub 12 hours for Ironman, and I'm looking great. To be fair, I say that, but I planned all year for that, and that would be the 12th month of the randonneur around the year. And on my birthday in 2015, the final Audax for finishing the randonneur around the year, a week before I fly over to do Ironman Mallorca, I come off and break my collarbone. Oh, no. So it's like, it's my birthday, it's the end of 12 months. Not just that, my family are all in Tenby because we're staying down there and training and whatever. I leave them in the morning to go and do this Audax, and I'm coming home. And now we're about to fly over to Mallorca to spend the family all day and for me to do my A race. And I've got a broken collarbone, I can't drive the hire car. So it's great end to that season. But like, genuinely, great year of training. I know this sort of stuff happens. So great adventure, great year. But then I'm like, right, now we're going to have fun. And I start to think more about running and also about weight. I decide now I'm going to get proper healthy. And I start to think about, well, I get into the ketogenic diet about then, and I get very skinny. Well, I say very skinny, like race weight sort of time. And then that Christmas, I win the ballot to run in London for my running club, and I'm thinking I'm going to do this properly now. So then I just start thinking about training for a marathon, and I do it like for somebody with my stature. I thought was a reasonable time, like sub 3.5 hours, somewhere in the 20s. Strava says one thing. I think London say a better time, but like for me, I put on the form I was going sub 4.5, so I'm happy with that. I've done a big turn, and I realised I've realised it before it, but I like to hurt myself, and there's like some kind of sadism in this ability, because if you look at my times for 5k, 10k, or whatever distance, I'm still doing the same times when I'm doing longer distance. And this is the joy. The joy is the hurting, and you get the joy from going for longer. And this is where I think the seed of ultra running starts to come. I did do ultra running that year, but then realizing that there's more, like in cycling, you go up a hill, you can rest a bit, and you freewheel a bit, you have a bit of a rest. In running, it's relentless, right? You're always moving forward. And I've been on a wild adventure, but I guess that's where the sense of adventure comes. I guess what I'm trying to say is, through that process, I discovered that the adventure for me is the hurting myself, and like I meet these old boys on Audaxes, and they try to talk to me about what's wrong with us, what's wrong with people who push themselves in this way, and like the one chap was saying to me, we clearly like to make things difficult for ourselves, and I'm like, yeah, that rings true. And then I've been thinking about this podcast and thinking back to my childhood, and I've always made things difficult for myself. And that's probably where the joy, that's the sense of adventure, is how can I challenge myself into making things difficult for myself. And I guess now there's been a certain amount of being overweight and completing these challenges made it more difficult for myself, which is fun. And I know exactly what my problem is with weight, because I've lost it and gained it back again, and it's mostly drinking alcohol. Like if I stop drinking alcohol, it shoots off me. I mean, I think you've had somebody on your podcast that's done the 496 challenge, I think they call it.
Yeah, so I did the 496.
Did you do it in kilometres or miles?
Kilometres.
Okay, so I've done the 496 challenge 5 times. Or 4 or 5 times over the last 5 years, and this year I did it in miles. And flipping heck, miles is next level. Like, I thought kilometres was tough, but it's great. But this year I did it in miles, and it could come close to breaking me and my family the amount of time commitment. I had to take the last 7 days off work to make it fit in any kind of shape of the day, and it's lush. Yeah. It's a great challenge. But I'd heard about this. Like, I know it's called that this year, but I'd heard about this challenge. It didn't really have a name. Have you heard of the Cockbane ultra running races?
No.
He makes the hardest races. Like, he's got one race which runs across the Severn Bridge, and it's 200 miles. You keep going across the Severn Bridge until you've done 200 miles. Jesus. And there's another one, there's like a tunnels in Bristol. You have to do the ultra in the tunnel with no GPS.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, it's just the event's called the tunnel, isn't it? And it's
Yes.
just back and forth down the mile stretch in the
Yes,
tunnel.
and you can't use GPS, right? Because you're in a tunnel, so you've got no sense of how many laps you've done,
Yeah.
or anything else. And there's always all of that mental. And there's another one he's got where you've got to carry like a cannonball that's like 10 kilograms. You've got to carry it for the whole of the race. He loves to pull on these really difficult races, which one day I'll be good enough to think about doing. But he, like years ago, on his Facebook group, set up what I think was the first time I'd heard of that challenge in miles, but I decided to do it in kilometres, thinking there's now no way I was doing it in miles. And this year I did do it in miles, and I'll just say it's just so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I did it in kilometres, and by no stretch of the imagination was I a runner when I started doing it, and I learnt very quickly how hard it was. So yeah, miles is just, it blows my mind. I've had Bob Thomas on who's done it, and yeah, the only messages I got was him being like, "Why aren't you doing it in miles? Like, you need to do it." And in my head, I'm like, I have to do it in miles now. So
Yeah,
one year I'll do it.
I did it this year and thought that was amazing. And to be fair, as you can see from the challenge I'm doing this year, it has set me up for the year, but yet, never again. Never again.
You've done it now. Have you heard of the 4-4-48?
4x4x48, the Goggins
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah, I've done that twice.
Yeah, I thought you would have. So Bob, this is like, I'm blown away by Bob. He's done it 4 times back to back.
Oh, nice.
So
Or
yeah,
like in one without, so it's 4x4 by whatever 4x48 is.
yeah.
So, oh, nice.
So he still calls it the 4x4x48 because he figured out that he did 48 runs in total.
So it's almost 4x4x48 or something. Yeah. Yeah.
It's insane. You just like, you seem like the sort of person that's gonna see that now and be like, oh, I wonder how far I could push that.
I mean, I think I could do it. Now I'm as fast as I am now. But previous times I've been quite slow, and that obviously affects your ability because you've got to get some power napping in there. And for 4 times, you're going to need to power nap in there. And I'm thinking, right, so you need to get that 4 miles done in a relatively fast time. Because I believe in running slow to go fast. And that's how you complete these challenges, is by dialing back and not having an ego about these things. But there's a certain amount in the amount of sleep deprivation you're going to have there.
Yeah.
And obviously, I quite understand sleep deprivation. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I could make that work. I think I know Bob. But I like I told you, I'm pretty bad with names. Well, I definitely know him, but it's which person in my mind it is.
Yeah. If it helps, he's also towed a drum kit 100 miles. So that sort of makes him stand out a bit.
Yeah. No, that doesn't help me, because there's a Bob that I know who is from Gowerton, and there's another guy who's done the Wild Horse and has supported the Wild Horse, and I can't remember which one's which. And I might be on about somebody completely different, but I'll be on the gram later and go, oh, that's the Bob Thomas I mean. But mentally, names are me terrible.
Yeah. So you've briefly said about what you're doing this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's get some more detail about that, because I think that's what Mike's put you up for.
So this year's challenge is I am running the Pegasus Slam, which is 3:30s, 2:40s, and a 50-mile ultramarathon race. I'm running the Epona, I've ran the Epona, which is a 100-mile race that he ran. And I ran the Wild Horse, which is a 200-mile race, which is all the races that Reese and Keris have, through the different brands, have put on this year. And I was originally calling that the Stable Super Slam, because it's all of their races. And then Owen, who I think has been on the podcast before for doing his 12 ultras in 12 months, informed me that on the Pegasus website, they have this thing to try to get people to get more involved and to do their first ultra called the Birthday Ultra, where you say to them, I'm going to run on my birthday an ultra marathon, and then you complete it and show them the Strava file, and then they send you, and they put you on the website, and they send you a gift or whatever. And then I realised, well, that's another ultra I've got to run. And me being me and realising that I don't do anything by halves. So the Rhythm is on like the first week of September, which will be my final race of what was the Super Slam. But my birthday's on the 12th of September, and I'm 45 years old, so I'm going to run 45 miles on the 12th of September around a roundabout in Bridgend.
Around a roundabout?
Around a roundabout in Bridgend, and that's going to finish off what now has become branded the Dan Slam.
Oh my God. That is... What? I knew about the, 8 races. I didn't know about the birthday one.
So the birthday thing got added to it, and then I just started to add a little bit of spice to the funness of this. And because it's like 45 miles, I'm going to have to run it reasonably fast. I can't dial back. I mean, just because I want to celebrate my birthday with my family too, so I'm going to just have a little bit of a go for running as fast, 45 miles as fast as I can, which means I want to do it on the flat. And people already think I'm crazy for running around this roundabout in Bridgend, because I did a lot of it when I did my January 496 challenge. So I thought, why not? Like in my mind, I was already, I'd say I've run a half marathon on it, but now, and I want to run a marathon on it at some stage. So why not do the finish off the nonsense with the biggest nonsense thing I could think of?
How many laps is it going to be?
It's going to be hundreds. I haven't worked it out yet, because it's like less than 400 meters per lap. It's a big roundabout, so it's a little bit better than some things. But
still, like less than 400 meters, and you're doing that for 45 miles.
So like that's four full laps, and 45 times 4 is like somewhere near 200 laps. Like,
oh my God, that is insane.
And I never trust me on a number that I've said. Oh, I'll confirm it and let you know exactly how many laps it is. But it's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's one way of describing it.
I mean, I don't think I'm the local legend on it at the moment, because I haven't run it in the last 3 months, but usually I'm the local legend on this roundabout, because, yeah, but some people do running on a treadmill, and I can think of nothing worse than running on a treadmill. And then other people say, how can you run around a roundabout? It's the same thing to me, but at least you're running. Whereas on a treadmill, to me, just don't feel right.
Yeah. I just can't get my head around that. 200 laps around a roundabout. Like, I'm quite into monotonous stuff. You're going
to flip a circle round hundreds of times, so I don't see the problem.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I've done a half marathon almost, going back and forth down a 20-meter strip. So that's pretty
similar. That's pretty similar.
I understand it. Like, I very much the same as you. I can deal with that. But then when I hear someone else doing it, it's then like, what? Why?
But then it's the other thing. It's like people are saying, oh, you're going to you go the opposite direction, because you're going to be doing the same direction. You're going to be slightly ajar with your hips and whatever. And I'm like, no, I'll do that another time, because it won't count. It's got to be the same direction, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know I haven't decided which direction. Probably clockwise, because like some kind of obsessive compulsion or something. I don't know. I haven't decided on that yet, but yeah.
Yeah, no. It's going to be quite a year. And we're already most of the way through it. So you've done how many of the ultras now? You've done...
So I've done...
6.
Yeah. I got 2 left. So I got the Edam, which is the hardest of the slam races, and then the Ridham, which you were doing as well.
Yeah.
To finish off, and there's going to be lots of nonsense on there. Come and find me, because I think I'm going to run it in a dinner jacket. And there's talk of us having 3-course meal out on the path and carrying picnic stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun on that one. But I thought I was finishing it all there, and then Owen came up to me and reminded me about the birthday ultra, and then I thought, well, I'm going to have to do this in true. Let's finish this and do it properly. So 45 miles is fine. And the roundabout sounds like nonsense, but it's probably easier than any other 45 miles, right? Because it's the same flat 45 miles. But yeah, sorry to fixate on that. But so yeah, I've completed the 2 hardest races and the bulk of the slam. But the 50 mile, I've done the slam before, the Pegasus slam before, and the 50 miles are the hardest of the 6 of them races. Yeah. Well, though the year I did it, there was a North Canham as well, which was 50 miles, and that was very tough too.
Yeah. So this isn't your first time doing the slam then? No. Is it your second?
Second time doing the slam. Not a second time. I've done other... I may have done Pegasus races between. I don't know. I volunteered, so it's hard to remember. But it's the second time of doing the full slam, yeah.
And you've done You did the 200 miler last year.
Yeah.
Have you done the?
I've never successfully completed 100 miles before I did the Epona, which literally came close to breaking me, which I loved. Favorite thing to happen. I tried the South Wales 100 a few years ago, DNF'd, so that was kind of it was a little bit of that nemesis to break, but I was a fast runner in there. Oh no, that's not strictly true, but I was skinnier. Let's leave it like that. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got quite a background in fitness in general, then.
Apparently, you wouldn't look at this, thinking to look at me, but yeah, I
you
guess
got like 10 years of experience of going from mountain biking, road cycling, triathlons, then into ultra running, and now your next thing is climbing as well.
Yeah, I got into bouldering last year, just as I finished the Wild Horse, and my feet had recovered a bit. Got really into that. My favourite sport ever at the moment, but that's the way I go, hyperfixation. Yeah, but I'm really terrible at it, right? Like, I'm a complete beginner at it. Well, I'm not. I'm a year in now, but still, for me, mentally, I mean, I managed to fluke a V4 for anyone who knows what that mentality is last week or the week before. And last year I was climbing V0, V1. So I think I'd make a decent progression, but similarly, it's not good enough for me. I want to be climbing V8s now. But that's my head. But like, as a motivator for losing weight, there's never been a bigger one now.
Yeah. So how are you managing your weight loss then?
I'm not right now. And a lot of that to do is because I'm enjoying a drink and I'm enjoying the release of completing the Wild Horse. I lost... In January, when I did the 496 in miles, and I always do dry January, and I do veganuary too, so that I lost like a stone and a half in January, and I'd say I put 3/4 of stone back on. But I did going into the Wild Horse, I was only half a stone on, say. So went into that, but I've been celebrating since. Let's just put it like that. How I'm going to do that is stopping drinking. It's as simple as that. As soon as I stop drinking, the weight falls off. It's great because my training volume's big enough for that.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing is people don't understand how I train so much, and I'm such a big guy. Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, I've lost the most weight through a ketogenic diet, but for the last 8 years I've been vegetarian, and trying to be ketogenic as vegetarian is not as easy as it was as a meat eater. I'll say that. But mostly I think you've had other guests on, it's avoiding ultra processed foods, but when you're drinking alcohol, that is ultra processed liquid, right? And so that's mostly how I do it. Just go back to not drinking, and yeah.
Yeah, the thing with alcohol is it's known as like empty calories because there's no nutritional value to it. It's not helping you like with digestion, with muscle mass, like
with
recovery.
Sleep and recovery, yeah.
It's just dead weight essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just don't realise that either.
Oh no, I am living proof of it. but also, like, I do enjoy the social aspect of drinking alcohol, and I think that you can have, like, everything's about balance, and it might come across, but I'm an all or nothing kind of person, and I do enjoy lots of aspects of life, but it's either on or off, and so there is no drink a little bit, train a little bit. I'm either drinking or I'm not drinking. I'm either training or I'm not training, and therefore, like, I know that there's no nutritional value for it, but I do enjoy it. But I can also not do it.
Yeah.
I have that control over it. Like, I don't drink in January, but now I'm thinking maybe more months of the year it would be more appropriate. Especially as you get older, it's more difficult to keep it off than it is to put it on, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's to answer your question.
So with all of these big challenges you've got then, a lot of people are going to be wondering, how do you train for something like that? Because, like, you would have done, like, what is it, 9 ultras in total in the period of 5-6 months.
Yeah.
do you just sort of rely on your previous conditioning? Like we've said, you've got like 10 years in the game now. Or do you have something where it's like, right, no, I need to do this, I need to do this, and build up?
So I absolutely believe in zone 2 training for ultramarathon and for just general aerobic fitness. So I do a lot of that. I believe in going slow to go fast, or just to go, right? And I also believe in strength and conditioning, which I think most runners avoid like the plague. And I know you guys do proper strength and conditioning, and I don't. Insofar as I don't do barbell work, I don't do much dumbbell work because I'm scared of messing up the form, and I think that'd be more danger. That's not to say this year I have started to do a lot more dumbbell work because I feel more confident in myself. But like, I don't want to mess up a deadlift. I got no idea what I'm supposed to look like, and I know that can mess you up. But I do know if I get on a static machine, I can push weight, and I know it's not as good, but historically that's been enough. But then I've tuned it and started to build into it more proper free weight work. But that's me, that is the skill. You do lots of zone 2 work. And I know that doesn't give you the most bang for your buck. I do know the speed work works. It certainly works for when you're trying to get a better 5K time. But you're also putting that extra strain on all the connective tissue. And like, as I'm finding in climbing now, you cannot force that to go fast. But if you do it at a low impact, and you've got time to do a lot of low impact, which most people don't have, then you can build that tissue over time. And I've done that over years, right? Because, like you say, for that 10 years, I have built the connective tissue in my knees and in my feet and in my hips. And then I do the strength and conditioning to supplement that. I also have this year started, and definitely through climbing, I've seen the cross-training element of moving in, because the trouble with runners, and most runners that run on roads, is that you're moving in a single plane with the same impact, and like you run off-road then, and you come down, twist your ankle a little bit, and you've got nothing, there's no resilience there, which strength and conditions provided me previously. But this year, with climbing and moving in different directions, I've started rowing a bit. I've started playing soccer in work. Sorry for those people who don't like soccer, but I don't like it as a sport. But I play it. Doing all of them sort of things adds to me to that resilience work. And then back onto the climbing front, I'm trying to take that mentality that I've developed in my ability to use my legs in trying to get finger strength and whereas, like a lot of people, there's like this conventional wisdom in climbing: do not go near a fingerboard until you've been climbing for 1 year. I've been looking at doing fingerboards at very low impact for every day.
Yeah,
I've been like following some YouTube videos and buying and pulling on a pin, and every day I do very low weight. But it's about that, and I've seen my finger strength started to come.
Yeah,
and it's just fantastic. And like applying all that to all different sports is a joy in itself.
yeah. That, what you just said about fingerboarding, like coming from a climbing background myself, that is the biggest load of nonsense. Do not go near a fingerboard, because you think about climbing and you're doing like a dynamic move to a hanging position.
Yeah.
And they're scared of hanging statically.
Exactly.
In the same position.
And you're going to be doing it through multiple planes. Whereas, yeah, I know.
It's like telling someone not to hold at the bottom of a squat because they haven't been squatting for long enough and they need to do the movement first. And it's like, they're going to be fine holding the bottom of a squat.
Yeah. I hear that, I've read that, I heard that multiple times.
Yeah.
I can understand though, like as a bigger guy, if you're going to try and, hang on a mono at 100 kegs, it's going to be you're putting a lot of weight through your fingers. I can understand that. But you would, as a climber of my level, you wouldn't be doing monos anyway, right?
Yeah.
But similarly, like, before all this, like at the start of the year, but in fact, it's maybe the start of, the Ross Edgley book, Blueprint, I think it is.
Yeah.
In that book, he describes that, like, we descend from apes and we don't do enough from hanging from trees, and you'll get some good effect from just hanging every day. So I'd started doing that, and then all of a sudden start climbing, and everyone's like, how, as a fat man, are you able already to be climbing on 45-degree angles? It's like, well, I go to the gym every week, and I've been hanging 30 seconds, 3 sets of 30 seconds every week. And then years ago, I tried to do pull-ups. No way I could do them as a big person, but I just tried, and like, oh, I could do a few of these. What's going on? I'm not trained for this. This is great. And then started to put that into my training plan. I would say the biggest thing that has been part of how I'm managing to do these challenges is I just play. I have fun with everything.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it seems like you're just very good at gamifying training.
Yes, gamifying life, not just training. I mean, I've had ADHD I had a diagnosis when in the 80s when it was a dirty word to even say kids had ADHD. And so I've always been looking at ways to keep my brain engaged, to do things. And there's a certain amount, I like repetition, as you can see by running around a roundabout, but I also like creating novelty and dopamine farming as much as possible. So yeah, I'm always looking for ways to have fun and play, gamify everything in life. Yeah. Everything in life, even parenting.
How do you gamify parenting?
Well, there's the original way of giving kids stickers to put on things, but like I've got my kids trying to get a streak at even my son at the moment is into karate, and I'm trying to get him a streak of doing press-ups and sit-ups every day and his kata every day. And you can see he doesn't want to lose to me, so off he goes. and like a lot of this thinking about neurodivergence, because we're trying to get him a diagnosis. Oh, no, not trying to see, but after teachers and his karate coach and everyone is saying he's neurodivergent, and that's got me to look more into a lot of where I am, and then see, oh, there's patterns here between my childhood and my kid's childhood. But yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, you seem to have like just figured out how to turn something that most people would like struggle with and turn it into like your net positive is like, I can see what this is, like ADHD, I've got these symptoms, how can I use it to win at what I'm doing?
Yeah, but it's not as easy as that, right? There's also been like I've also really struggled with mental health, and I've really struggled with some of these symptoms. And I guess exercise and all of this stuff, and why I do it so much, is it because I'm sure for most people, exercise is so good for your mental health. And therefore, I've created that positivity through the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I've not struggled in the last 10 years. I've had very dark patches in the last 12 years, but exercise has always brought me out of that. And that's why, for me, that's the most important thing. I want everyone to be out doing as much as they can. Excuse me. Because, yeah, like moving your body gives so much. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be anything. It's just going out and exercising in some shape or form. It's so key to our existence. I know this is like massive platitudes, but like it means so much to me. I think like if I could give 20-year-old me the gift that I got at 30, it'd change my life. And there are still so many people that I see around me that have not got it. And everywhere I work, I create like a jog club that everyone goes out and jogs, because it's the most accessible way to do exercise. And whether that's run, walking, it doesn't matter how slow we go. It's about us all going out and moving our bodies. And like for me, that's the net positive, is what I found in exercise. And yeah. I think it's for everyone, right?
What do you think it is about exercise specifically that has that benefit to people?
I mean, what do I think? Probably exercise forces you to be present in the exercise, right? And I think that, like through meditation, or the idea of headspace and calm and all of that stuff, presence seems to imply it, but I've no idea. Realistically, that's me parroting to you what I think based on joining dots. Actually, what I think, I don't think it matters. It does it. So that's all that matters to me, is that it does it. It's weird, right? Because you do like easy efforts, and there's plenty of time for you to be in your thoughts and not be present and be absolutely thinking about all the things in the world. But at the same time, you're not being distracted by what your phone is saying or what's going. You have that time to think while you're doing zone 2 training. But then the opposite of that, when you balls out trying to work hard, or you're trying to move and weight as hard as you can, afterwards that endorphin rush that you have, it's just something else, right? So there's so many bits that give you positives that I can't explain what about exercise, because every exercise gives something different.
Yeah. I like the way you worded about doing your zone 2 training, of like, it makes you be present, but not in the way that like you're just focusing exactly on the moment.
Yeah.
Because I've never thought of that. I've always struggled with, like, how does running make you present? Because most of the time when I'm running, I'm thinking about everything but running.
Yeah.
Um,
But like if you were sprinting though, you are just thinking about running, right? You're trying to think. So like when you're doing all-out effort, you're definitely present, but you can't sustain that.
yeah.
Although I will say, if you try to run like a marathon as fast as you can at threshold, you are definitely present. And in fact, you're trying to meditate yourself out of the pain, right?
Yeah. But I think the important part was that presence isn't just about living in the moment. It's about allowing your thoughts to just be without distraction.
Yes.
And like I've literally had that thought during this conversation of like it's just made sense to me then because I was out running earlier and I was thinking about absolutely everything that's going on. I'm like, oh, like what do I need to do for adventure athletes? What do I need to do for my job? What do I need to do that's going to help benefit my relationships and my life? And I was thinking about literally everything. And looking back at that now, that is my presence because I'm not distracted by like I've got this to-do list which I'm working through right now. I've got this
and have I paid that bill? And
yeah, it's just like that's my time to then reflect and think about what's going on, and that's presence in itself.
Yeah, and like the more of that zone 2 training you do, because I like when you did that 496 trial, you had lots of that time, right?
Yeah.
And like when you're on a bike doing it, it's so cathartic because you do not require so much of yourself physically to do zone 2 on a bike because you can freewheel. And then you will solve world hunger out on it, right? Because you have that much time and you need to think about something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it just gives you that space to actually focus on things you should be thinking about, I feel, because I'm a sucker for it. I get sucked into social media. I'll spend hours scrolling and just looking at all the different reels on Instagram.
Oh, the new reel stroke TikTok stroke YouTube shorts ruin my life. But similarly, it is still nice though. Like it is a little bit of dopamine, as long as you can control it. But I understand, is what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in that. But then when you're out running, you're not going to be looking there scrolling. And that time that I spent scrolling, I could have been thinking about the things that I then end up thinking about on my run. So where I've had like pretty much 2 weeks off where I've hardly done any exercise, then going out for a run today, I was like over the moon and I felt like calm after it because I had that space to think.
Oh yeah. Like I usually do 2 kilometers of some description on my feet every day. And it's usually first thing in the morning. And it gets you time to put your thoughts into order, right? Most people, like especially I work in tech, right? So most people have that moment in the shower where they solve the problem in work that they're trying to solve. And like I get it a lot out on a run too. And a shower is like 20, 30 seconds. For a big problem, that's when it'll bubble up to the surface in your mind. But out on a run, it can be lots of things. You can put all your thoughts in order, right? It can go the other way too. You can think about things you like that have been causing you anguish and go through anxiety. But also in that, sometimes pushing them thoughts away, what makes them worse, and dealing with them problems and going through it can make the problem go away, or at least you in a better position to deal with it.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a side that I don't think enough people talk about is those darker thoughts that you have when you're running. And it's not just always about, I'm in pain, this is hard. It's about like, what's going on in my life that I'm not happy with.
Yeah.
And it just forces you into that. I feel like ultras force you into that a lot.
Oh, yeah. But also, like, I think people don't talk enough about that sort of stuff. I mean, it's close to my heart. I've lost friends to what I call the black dog that I've done ultra events with. But and it's usually when they've stopped training so much that things have got bad for them, because you do talk like it sort of takes your guard down when you spend 30 hours out on a mountain in the middle of the night hallucinating with someone. You feel that you can share some things that are going wrong in your life, and sometimes just talking is all that it takes. Actually articulating and giving a voice to some of these feelings can make the difference, and people don't talk enough, and that's why I love it. And that's why I want as many people doing it as possible. And that's why why I love Pegasus, because they are trying to get people into running far.
Yeah.
Because it's for everyone.
Yeah, I think Reese is doing a fantastic job of making ultra running accessible, and I think his aid stations, the famous Pegasus aid stations, are testament to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like I've also the no cutoffs,
Yeah,
a testament to that. It takes off the pressure, and that pressure I think makes people run too hard and then end up injuring themselves. I understand it's difficult, right? You're asking volunteers to stay for long periods of times because of that, but it's usually evident people who are not capable earlier in the race, they end up like saying, this is too much for me, and I'll phone up. The people who have committed to the end, the fact he's there for them, it makes the difference. There's a lady who I met on my first slam, who the year later started the slam, and she's now committed that she's going to do a slam, Pegasus slam, all of her life. She's going to do them back to back, and I think she's on a third or a fourth, no, a third this year. And like that's a joy. And every year she's getting faster. It's just great, isn't it? It's just great.
On the topic of mental health, then, there seems to be like a big uprising in the cases of mental health issues. Like, what do you see as being the problem that's like causing? It seems to be over the past even just like 5 years.
Is there though, or are we talking about it more? Because either are good things, right? Or no. Obviously, it's not a good thing that there's more people with mental health issues. But are we now? Is there less of a stigma for people to talk about it? Because that could also be true. I'm not sure if that is true. I mean, modern life, we talk about how in modern life we got all of these distractions. We're not able to form proper relationships with people because of the distraction of a mobile phone or whatever. But I wonder if in previous times, there was a stigma of even talking about some of this stuff, and people dealt with it internally and dealt with it badly, or dealt with it taken out on their partner behind closed doors. I don't know, but I do know, whichever way it is, I'd like it to become better, and talking about it is how we get there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But what do I think the cause of it? If that's a question, I don't know. Genuinely, I think that in previous times people hid it a lot more, and it was like there was this macho-ness of not talking about how people felt internally. There's also a lot more people on planet Earth right now than there was before, right? And every year it's getting bigger. I mean, I think we've stalled a little bit, so there's a certain amount of that. Do I think that social media and that general modern life thing can affect things? Of course. But I also think more cars on the road cause that. Like driving to work and being in traffic cause that problem. There are lots of stimuli in the modern world that are not great. I don't have an answer for you. All I know is I'd like to fix it in some way. Or not, obviously fixing is impossible, but I'd like to leave the world better than I came into it. So therefore, people need to talk about it, right? And people need to get exercise to make it a little bit better to deal with. But I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer to why it's like that. I got hypotheses. I don't want to just blame the internet and social media for it, because I do think that the internet and social media is good, and that people are more socially connected than previously they would have been, and do have a conduit for asking for help that wouldn't have existed before, while nobody could communicate with each other. So I think it's a little bit of 6 for 1 and half a dozen the other. But these tech companies do also make money out of you being engaged with it, and therefore are gamifying you being addicted to it. So yes, that is not a good place to be. And I know I've just completely contradicted myself on all fronts, but it's a complex answer. And I know everyone loves to say it depends, but clearly it does, right?
Yeah. So you said about you want to help, like, make the issues better, like make it more manageable. How can we do that both as individuals and as a society?
As individuals, I think we ourselves, for our own mental health, can talk more, and we can go and exercise more. As individuals, for other people, which I suppose is society, we can encourage all of our friends, like give the gift of exercise, but also talk to people. I don't have an easy answer, because everyone's different, right? Some people want to be left alone when they're dealing with things, and other people want to be spoken to. There is no easy answer to this. It's really difficult. I get it. Societally wise, I I don't know. I am scared of the world situation for how divisive the world is right now. I don't have an answer for that. In fact, I'm actually quite scared of it. So I guess I'm sticking my head in the sand a little bit, but you can only change things. No, you can't only change things, but it's easy. It's more controllable to think about things from what you can do to other people and what you can do for yourself. And obviously, look at yourself first, because it's easy to look at the problems with everyone else and just be nicer, I guess. I mean, that's a bit of hippy dippy stuff, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know for me, I've struggled with mental health issues for a large chunk of my life. And it's been really refreshing for me to, and I'm not just sure if it's just because of this podcast that I've been doing it, but I've been talking to a lot of people involved with mental health stuff. So there's Helpy, who are a charity that have started in Wales, who are trying to get the suicide rate in Wales to 0.
Lush.
There's the guys at Stand Tall who do a weightlifting course, but alongside learning to do like the Olympic weightlifting skills, they'll do an hour of skill work and then an hour of you sit in a room and you learn a different tool each week to how to manage mental health better and recovery and all of that stuff. And then you've got like Big Moose in Cardiff doing the therapy, and I've been a part of like all of their journeys in a way now. And it's just so nice to see things like this popping up. And then through Helpy, they just highlight what everyone else does as well. So I've seen like all the men's shed stuff. I've seen the like men talk walk around here where they just do a Sunday walk, just a bunch of them, and they'll just talk and walk. It's like that
no,
simple.
that sounds lush. Like I think is dad and son thing in Bridgend, a similar sort of thing, where dads and their sons go and play football together or whatever. I don't actually know if that's what they do, but I've seen, but yeah, all of that stuff is really, really good. I guess we can all get involved in that, and we can all put our ego at the door and get involved if we need to talk, right? There's also the campaign against living miserably do really good work too. There's lots of good charities for that kind of stuff and good organisations. I've not been super involved with them myself. I've done mental health first aid courses, and I like to do a bit more on that front, but what you just like, I know about Big Moose, but not personally. Like there's Jimmy who set up with Rod the Running Punks. He's does stuff with Big Moose. I know you do stuff with Big Moose. In fact, pretty much everywhere I look, people are doing Big Moose. I've been there and eaten food in their cafe and stuff. Great charity, but also like I'm periphery to it. So you're hearing about this stuff. It sounds great. The other two sound wicked, really good. But yeah, I mean, I know there's other organisations that do good stuff. Mental health is the key to making everything better, right? I mean, I suffer too, we all I continually suffer, but yeah, sorry, waffling a bit, but like there is no secret silver bullet, but that's a great lofty goal of removing suicide rate in Wales to 0%.
Yeah. That's actually set up by my friend's dad. So, like, seeing what he's doing is just, like, it makes me feel like anyone can do something like that and set out to have such a big goal that's going to impact people. And then it's the same with Jeff from Big Moose. So I've had him on the podcast. And he's just this incredible guy that's just like, right, I want to make this difference. And then he just does it. And it's fantastic to see. I've benefited from Big Moose. I went to therapy with him. And that's sort of like led me on the path that I am here.
Well, I didn't even know they did that until I saw Jimmy had done it and he was raising the profile. And Hannah, who did one of the race directing, she'd done it, and I heard you had done it. I was like, I didn't even know this was a service. I was just going there for meals in the cafe. I knew it was a charity, but I didn't know what the charity was about.
Yeah. So the cafe actually started as they wanted to provide homeless people with jobs. So it all started because Jeff and his daughter was volunteering at a homeless shelter, like giving out food. I think it was like at Christmas or something. One of the events where it's like, let's go and do this nice thing and improve like the homeless lives. And then they were like, oh, how can we make this better? Like, how can we do something that's not just giving them something, it's like changing their life. So there was like, let's start a cafe and we'll only employ homeless people. And they started giving homeless people jobs. And then from that, one of the guys that worked there was really struggling with his mental health. And they were like, the best thing we can do is get him therapy. And they saw how much it changed his life. And then they're like, now we're going to start providing therapy for people because that's the solution.
That makes sense. So it's like been an evolution, which is why I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great though. Love to hear it.
It's amazing what they're doing, and that's why I'm trying to fundraise £10,000 for them, because I honestly believe in everything they're doing, and I feel like that can be the difference that I give. And it's sort of, I started fundraising for them, and then it made me reflect on my mental health, and I was like, I should really talk about this, and it actually came about on the 496. That was when I was going through therapy with them, and I had a day, it was day 26, I'll never forget it. I was hobbling with a stress fracture in my foot, because I wasn't a runner, and then I decided to run 496 kilometers in a month. And day 26, I was hobbling, and I was like 3 kilometers in, and I was trying to record, I was doing a daily video on my Instagram. And every time I tried to record, I just burst into tears, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, this is going to be the day that I give up and I fail. And I was like, I can't post me crying. Like, I'm doing this challenge. Like, people need to see how strong and resilient I am. And then eventually, it was like after 5 takes, I think, I was like, I'm just going to post me crying. And then that's how Mike then reached out to me, being like, what you're doing is amazing. Like, thank you for being vulnerable. I want to come join you on your last day of the 496. And then chatting with him, he was like, I've got all this stuff going on in my life and in my head. And I was like, you should go to Big Moose. And he's gone to Big Moose, and it's changed his life. It's changed my life. And it's just seeing the impact that it's having. I'm just like, there's no better charity.
Yeah. And that needs scaling, right? Which needs money, which is why you raise money for them.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's so grassroots, so it works like because you've had the benefit, and then you're multiplying it by earning more money, by raising more money for them, which then is going to get more people in the pipeline. They're going to do just the same, and like everywhere I turn, there's so many people raising money, and it's working so well, and it's nice. Like, it's a formula that is sustainable, because I am worried about some ways of charities fundraising, and this is the way I think to go, right?
Yeah.
But also like having these kinds of conversations, because I don't think a lot of people know this is available, and a lot of people look at therapy and look at costs of therapy and goes, that's not for me, right? I can't get to that.
It's insane amounts,
yeah.
Really. But it honestly, like, anyone listening that feels they need to talk to someone, I highly recommend getting therapy if you can afford it, or if you can't, reaching out to somewhere like Big Moose, because within a week, I had a therapist that I could talk to. Like, the turnaround is so quick. You go to the NHS, you're on like a year waiting list.
That's if they like provide one-to-one therapy. But having been in that pipeline, they're so stretched that sometimes the group therapy is the best that they can offer. It's not even that. The go-to is just pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah.
And that can help, because I've used them to great effect. It can be that little jolt back into society, jolt back into a better place. However, it's not a long-term solution, and it's unfortunate that we cannot get that on our NHS, but that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
Or at least it's difficult, a little too difficult.
Yeah. There's so many barriers to getting help, whether you're going through the NHS or even going through charities. Like, I know there's a lot of charities doing great work, and I know Mind do some great stuff, but I also know that it's quite a lengthy process still, and it's quite hard and off-putting to go through that.
That's the key, though, right? You're in a vulnerable state, and then sometimes even admitting it yourself is really difficult, which is what I'm trying to say to people, to just start talking. But you're in that state, and then trying to reach out for help. Hurdles don't help that situation, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that people, like in my position, especially where I'm now building an audience, as much as I find that crazy and out there, people are starting to like listen to me, and they're looking up to the things I'm doing, and they're like, it's incredible what you're doing. And like you were saying before we started recording, where it was like, well, I've been through that journey too, but a lot of people don't see that. they don't see that I've come from like I've been doing fitness for similar to you over 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like I've built up to here. I didn't just magically start here. I didn't just rock up and do it.
Yeah, like the people are wanting to talk to me on a podcast this year, but I've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
But similarly, my mental health journey has been going on for all of my life, right? And even here today, as I stand quite confidently achieving things, things are not perfect, right? We're all still dealing with things, but I've been in worse places, and I've also had friends that ultimately are no longer with us, and that can't happen. We can't have that happen anymore. You're a charity is trying to stop that. It means a lot, and I'll like send me links later because I need to look into it and things that I can do.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put you in contact with the guy that runs it. Like I said, it's my friend's dad, so he's been on the podcast as well. So
yeah, well, I like I said, I've tried to listen to your back catalogue, and since you reached out to me on what was it, Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, not long ago.
And I'm like 14 episodes in now, and I got to complete it. I wanted to complete it before today, but that wasn't going to happen.
No, we're like 60 episodes deep, I think. So that would have been some going in like 4 days to catch up with
2.25 speed.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing that people in our positions that have been through it, and this is where I love podcasting, is just to be vulnerable. And I learnt that on that, sharing that video of me crying and the impact that's had.
It's hard though, right? Because I appreciate what you did. I didn't see it, but like you also internally is that I don't want to make you feel like I'm performing feeling vulnerable too, right?
Yeah.
It's all like hats off to you, because I'd feel it like that. I couldn't send it because I'd be worried about that too. And then when you did, you see the outpouring of, fuck, that's great.
Yeah.
And like everyone's me too, right? But nobody wants to admit it. And somebody needs to be vulnerable to start that to happen. And clearly it had the right effect for you.
Yeah.
But it also for other people.
Yeah, it's sort of changed the direction that I went in with this podcast, because before that, I was doing the podcast. Obviously, I was been doing it for a while, but I really struggled connecting with the guests. There was some guests that I just couldn't get the best out of, and there was just that disconnect. And then I was just thinking, like, I used to do a little bit of prep where I was like, right, what do I want to get from this guest? What information do I want? And there was like that set, like, this is what I want to get out of this episode. And sometimes it would go too much down that way that I wouldn't get the best out of them.
Yeah, I get it.
And then since then, it's just been like, well, what's the real goal of the podcast? Because my podcast has never been to get views. My podcast has been so I can meet people that are like-minded and get to know them and build a community. And I was like, that's it. I just need to connect with them on some level. And I've just scrapped all preparation. I do not plan. I've got my set first question and my set end question.
Yeah.
Everything in between is just, what am I thinking about now? Like, how can I connect with this person on a deeper level?
Absolutely. This has gone no way in which I expected it to go. But similarly, I like my ADHD means I do better if I'm winging it. But mentally, I'm thinking about things that I could talk about, things that might be interested to you. But I'm also was coming here today, and I'm like, I'm not an athlete, I'm a fathlete. What's going on? And like, I can appreciate people are interested in the challenge, but and I'm interested to see that I'm doing the challenge. But like, what have I got to offer you who already coach people to do things like this? And I feel like a fraud. And then we're talking about mental health, and like, this is my jam. This is why I get up and do these stupid things to keep myself sane. And also, like, this means a lot to me. I like I say, I've lost people to this. I've lost people to this in this journey in the last 10 years. And I cannot, like, it's hard, right? To dealing with that on its own is hard to deal with it. But I've been in that place too. And I'm sure I'm sure most people in some way have to deal with this sort of stuff regularly, and they don't have the tools to equip to deal with it. But similarly, even exercise sometimes isn't enough, right? And to hear that there are organisations like this to signpost, like people being aware of that, like even if nothing else, like nobody. Like I'm a nobody. Nobody listens to this episode other than people, my friends and family. I'm like, look, I've been on this podcast, and they listen to it, and they come out of this with just the idea that there's someone they can go to. That then we've made a difference, and it was worth it. Because like this morning when I woke up, I'm like, what am I pretending to be? I'm not a runfluencer. I got nothing. I don't want to create content or anything in that world. I do this nonsense to keep myself sane.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, well, this can have a net positive for the world without me pretending to be something I'm not, which is what I was worried about happening.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what I'm trying to do with my podcast. I feel like there's enough podcasts out there where it's like, we want to hear from experts in their fields. We want to hear from people that are like doing these massive things and they're out here, like their social media following's massive. I don't care about the social media following like I did when I started, and I was like, yeah, I can get a lot out of this. And the only reason why I chase views with the podcast now is something that Jeff actually said to me, where he was like, look at the impact this podcast has had on your life and the net positive that's been across all sort of areas of your life and everything it's brought you. Now imagine someone that is struggling listens to an episode and it can change their life. And now imagine you get more listeners and you can impact more people and help more people. He was like, it's your duty to get this to as many people as you can. And that is the single reason why I invest in making this podcast better. I could have stuck with just like really rubbish cameras, really rubbish audio, but I've now spent like silly amounts of money on this podcast and I get nothing back. Oh, 100%.
But like that's the why that makes that's more of a why. Like it's not some faux why or some kind of idea of wanting to be famous. It's like it's an impact, and we all spend a limited amount of time on this earth, and like to try to make a difference is a difficult goal, and having the capability to do that in any shape, even me now coming on this podcast and just maybe somebody listens to this, maybe it just gets you one or two more, it's still worthwhile for me now, and that in itself is cheered me up. Yeah. Because I genuinely felt a bit disingenuous coming on this podcast to tell you about stuff I do for fun and just to play, to mess about, you know.
I really think it's been beneficial for like everyone involved, for me listening to you and being able to have that space like we was talking about earlier without distractions. That's another thing I love about this. It's in person, it's face to face. There's no phones out. We're not.
No, I took mine off the table because I saw again notification. I didn't want it to distract anybody.
Yeah. But
like whenever situation would I sit, even when I'm like I manage staff, even when I'm having in interactions with them, neither of us are far from a notification because we need to be for part of our job. But like that's taken away. It's great.
Yeah. So like that's a net positive for me. It's positive for you, like you're saying, like going through those feelings of discomfort and being like, what do I have to offer, and realizing that just your experience as a person is what you're offering, and then the listeners getting something out of this, whatever it may be. And I'll probably have an idea in my head of like, this is what the listeners are getting out of it. You've probably got an idea, but what they're really getting is
it's in their heads, right?
Yeah.
And they have every right to that. But that even if, you know, it's not, they are in a good mental health place, they're already fit, but there's somebody they know whose this story or something about this could be useful. It's worth it, right?
Yeah.
And thank you for inviting me, because on Saturday I was like, should I do this? This sounds a bit silly.
Yeah. I actually had a guest on, it was the last episode I released, I think, Jack, who was going to run 800 kilometres for 80 years of D-Day.
The last episode I listened to last night, that was that episode. Guy with epilepsy.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So just before I released that episode, I messaged all my guests being like, oh, just so you know, like the podcast is coming out tomorrow. And then when it comes out, I send them the link of it, and I'm like, this is where you can find the podcast if you want to share it with anyone, or if you just want to watch it back yourself. And he was saying to me, like, he replied pretty much instantly being like, I was so worried about listening back to this. I didn't think that I was going to, but having been on it and having gone through the whole process afterwards of being like, I wonder what it's going to be like, and
I'm not sure listening. I'm going to watch it. I listen to it, but I'm not sure I'd watch it. Like, see in my face. But it remains to be seen, but I will listen to it.
Yeah. And he was saying the amount that he got out of doing it, and he was like, it was almost like therapy.
Well,
funnily
absolutely.
enough.
There's no doubt this is like therapy. Just the same as talking to someone out on a run is therapy.
Yeah.
But like, I did not expect therapy today, I'm not gonna lie to you, which is great, right?
Yeah.
And I like in some way that I may have given you some therapy too, which is also not something I expected out of today,
100%.
which is great. Absolutely great, right?
Yeah. So if anyone's out there thinks of starting a podcast, do it. It's free therapy.
Yeah, I've been like I started a therapy and started a podcast during lockdown, but it was a tech podcast, and it was therapeutic, but also it was massively related to tech. But I never thought about that part of the impact of it. And it's like even them people on the podcast that I started with, we were having conversations about mental health and how we were going to make it easier for mental. And if we'd gone down that line and thought about that connection, we could have made the meaning of it for us work better. So we kept it going. So like on its own, that like I understand the why now.
Yeah. So coming up to like wrapping it up now, what's next for you? Because we know that we're doing 3 more ultras. You got the 2 organised ones and then your birthday one.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea on what's next?
No. I mean, I really wanted to do the Triple Crown this year, the 3 200s that recent Keris put on, the Wild Horse South, Mid and North. And to be fair, Keris told me if I can get the South to sell out, they'll put on the Mid Wales for me one. So everyone on that listening, please sign up for the Wild Horse 200 in South Wales so I could do the Mid Wales one. I don't know, there's been conversations about doing Ironman next year for some friends who've never done it. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm looking for some nonsense to do, some new challenge, but I am a parent of a young family. Like, there is a lot of commitment, and it takes a family to make these things happen. But I do need, and this is kind of what happened in between my big training and putting the weight back on. I do need something silly that I'm scared of in the calendar to make me stay focused. So I don't know. I look to you and your followers for some kind of nonsense for me to think about. But like, you know, in the Audax world, I always want to do Paris-Brest Paris, which is the like pinnacle of Audax cycling. There's London, Edinburgh, London as well to do, which is another one. There's so many cycling ones, and I don't cycle so much anymore, so that could happen next year. I don't know. There is no, like, I'm looking for things to play with, but I don't have anything planned next year yet, but I will have. You can guarantee I will have.
Yeah. I definitely recommend getting into the personal challenges side of things where it's not an organised event.
Yeah.
Because the logistics of it, honestly, it's a nightmare, and it takes so much time and so much energy and sometimes stress.
Sorry.
No worries.
It's 8 p.m. innit? Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, it takes so much energy to do it. But then that's the extra level of the challenge, is the organising, and then being like, well, again, this is something I was talking about on another podcast, is, well, what are the rules? Because this is my challenge. Like,
yeah, I think I was listening to your podcast with Mike just on the way here, but like talking about the rules about your flipping challenge, literally flipping challenge. And thinking, oh, yeah, that is interesting. But I also would want to write the rules down so that you can't deviate after the fact, right? Because Yeah, I am going to have it solidly in writing before starting. I'm leaving it very last minute because I'm still trying to figure it out myself, because it was, like I said on that podcast, it was going to be like Guinness rules. But they're a logistical nightmare. That's way harder than just... It'd be nice to have the Guinness bit, though, right?
Oh, it'd be lovely to.
But paying to play, not up for that.
No. I feel like the physical, just saying that I've flipped a tyre for a marathon, even if I don't hit a marathon, then I spent 48 hours flipping a tyre.
Yeah.
I feel like that's enough. I don't need a title after that.
Have you done the sleep deprivation before?
So last weekend I did the 3 peaks I was doing it to support one of my PT clients.
Mm-hmm.
And because we both work a lot, we couldn't then, like, we didn't have the time to drive up, sleep in Scotland, and then start the challenge the next day. So it was like, right, we're going to leave Talbot Green at 8 a.m., drive all the way to Scotland, then we'll start the 24-hour clock. So we'd already done like 9.5 hours of driving.
Yeah.
And then it was like, right, now let's start the 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I was doing all the driving. I hiked every mountain because I was guiding her and supporting her. And then after we finished, it's like, right, we've both got work in the morning now. We then have to drive back from Snowdon. So it was like a 38-hour ordeal. And I think I had like half-hour sleep in that time.
And how was the hallucination? So had you started by that point?
What I don't think I've said this on the podcast. I might have done, but we started to have like joint hallucinations, which was interesting. But like they weren't like full on. It was just, you know, when your brain just starts playing tricks on you.
I mean, that is the hallucination, right? It fills in the blank of what you can't fathom anymore.
Yeah. So I just remember this one moment where there was like this big boulder. I think it was going up Snowdon. Might have been Scaffold Pike, one of the two. And she was ahead of me and she walked up and I saw her like look at this boulder and then like keep walking and then do a double take. And I was like, what's she looking at? And I looked there and I saw a person sitting behind the boulder and I was like, look back. And then I was like, wait, is that a person? And I looked back and it was a bush. And then I just straight out asked her, I was like, did you just have to double take that bush because you thought it was a person like sitting like crouched down? She was like, yeah, I did. I was like, oh, so like we're both hallucinating now.
Nice that you saw the same thing, or
Yeah.
Because in a wild horse, I was seeing different things to the person I was running with, but his hallucinations, while infected, were proper hallucinations. He saw the Gruffalo, and then went with the Gruffalo to find the mouse, and we're taking pictures to show his kids, and we're showing me the pictures of just a tree.
That's incredible.
But yeah, what you described is what all I've experienced, is that sense of seeing things that your mind is just filling what it is, and then you get so close to see exactly what it is. You're like, how did I even see that as wrong?
Yeah, like when I did the double take, it was like, that's clearly not a person.
Yeah.
And it didn't even quite make like the outline of a person. So I was like, how have I just filled that in there?
That's wild, isn't it?
But yeah, like that's pretty much the only time I've really had to deal with sleep deprivation. So.
Yeah, but driving on it as well, that's a bit oof. I've cycled with sleep deprivation and woken up in midair after hit the curb and taken off and I'm asleep, and it's not safe, so don't do that.
Yeah, there was one point where I started to notice it was getting a bit dicey.
Yeah,
and straight away I was like, we're way ahead of time. I'm gonna pull over. I'm gonna sleep.
Yes, the way.
Thinking about it, I should have set a timer, like an alarm or something.
How long did you sleep?
It was only half hour. I was quite lucky that I woke up, but like as soon as I woke up and I was like, I literally just put my head down and I was gone, and now I'm up and I was like Ellie was asleep next to me, my client, and I was just like, we could have been asleep for a long time and missed the 24-hour cut-off because we slept.
Oh, it was mid-event?
Yeah, mid-event. So
wow.
It was between Scaffold and Snowdon. And I was like, I can't, like you were saying, it's not safe to drive like this.
No, power napping is the way, though. It's like 10 minutes and you feel a lot more refreshed. But yeah you were lucky. Because I've heard stories of people doing a power nap and waking up 8 hours later on the side of the road.
Yeah, I definitely should have set an alarm looking back. And I knew as soon as I woke up, I was like very lucky to get up. But I think I slept for a bit too long as well, where you then get groggy.
Yeah.
And I was like coming round and I was just looking and I was like, oh, I could just go back to sleep.
And there's a danger for that, right?
Yeah, and then I was like, no, I've just got to start driving now. And like as soon as I started driving again, I was then awake again.
Yeah.
But I was just like, this is rough now.
Yeah. Oh, nice though.
Yeah.
Did she get the challenge then?
Yeah, so we actually made the cut-off with 4 seconds to spare. So a 24-hour challenge, and we've got
full value.
Full value.
Love
it. It was a sprint finish. We got to the top of, we was going up Snowdon, and we'd seen another group that started at the same time as us at Ben Nevis.
Yeah.
And we saw them on the way down. So then, we stopped. We was like, "Oh, hi, you all right?" And they're like, "Yeah, sorry, we're not stopping to talk. We're in a rush. We got to make this 24-hour cut-off." And then we both were panicking, being like, "We're trying to make the same cut-off as you."
And they started with,
Yeah, we've got to, we still have to get to the top. They're already on their way down. If they're rushing, like,
we should rush.
yeah, and we didn't. And I was talking to Ellie about it, and we was like, you know what, like, we've done the extra driving as well. Like, we've got the sleep deprivation. We're doing everything self-supported. They've had a driver. They've had people, like, cooking for them and stuff.
Yeah,
Whereas we're carrying just whatever food we can bother to eat.
Yeah.
And I just spoke with her, and she was like, I'm not that fussed about the 24 hours. And I was like, okay, like, that gives me a bit of, like, pressure relief.
Off. Yeah.
And I was like, let's just enjoy it. And we get to the top. We stand in the queue to get a photo and everything.
What time of day is this on Snowdon?
This was, like, afternoon. So I think we reached the summit by, like, 3:30.
Okay.
The 5 o'clock was the time we had to be done by. So then we start coming down, and she was like, I hated the path we came up. We went up the pig track. And then I was like, let's go down the miners, because it's like, got that steep bit, but then it's just pretty flat for the rest of it. And it's a nice path. It's longer, but since we're not worrying about cut-offs, we'll just go down that way. And as we're going down, we're getting to the flat bit, and I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, oh, we've got 40 minutes here. We could, and I was like, I don't know how long this path is, but like, so I can't pace us.
Yeah.
But I was like, if we keep a fairly relative pace, like, I'm sure it's not that far. So then we're going, and I look at my watch, and we've got like 15 minutes left, and I see that it goes round a corner and then disappears.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the finish could just be round that corner. Like, shall we just run a bit? And she was like, really? Like, my legs are wrecked. And I was like, yeah, come on, let's just run a bit. We'll get round the corner. Like, it's 15 minutes tops. We ran for 5 minutes. We got round the corner, and then you just see it goes back and then round another corner. And I was like, oh, maybe we're not going to make the 24 hours. And we walk for 5 minutes, and it gets 5 minutes left. And I'm like, I'm sure it's not that far now. Like, 5 minutes, like, going all out. Like, let's just go for it. And she was like, I hate you. And I was like, but we want to do the 24 hours. And if we've run this last 5 minutes and we don't make the 24 hours, at least we can say we tried.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like, I'm just giving up. So then I was like, let's go. And I was like, I'm going to set the pace. Just keep up. Just keep on my tail as much as you can. And I'm sure we're going to do it. And I run off and run around the corner, and I can see the finish, and I'm just in the zone now. I'm like, we got to make it. And I get past the gate, I touch it, and I look down at my watch, and we've got less than 2 minutes left. And I turn around, she's not there. I couldn't even see her.
You dropped your client.
And I was just like, oh, what have I done? Like, is she struggling? Is she hurt?
safe?
Like, do I go back to check for her, or do I wait here so I can make sure, like, if she does come, like, I've got the time down and everything? And I'm sat there, and I'm like waiting with my watch, like waiting to stop the Strava, because I'm the one tracking it. And I was like, I'm not stopping it till she gets here.
Yeah.
And then I see her, and I'm just like waving, like, look at my watch, 30 seconds. I'm like, sprint fast as you can. She starts sprinting, makes it with 4 seconds left. And I was like, what happened? Like, I've told you to keep up with me. She was like, my bag exploded. All my stuff came out. So I had to stop to pick my stuff up. And I was calling for you, but you was off. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, but like, you've made it. And just that.
Was she happy then, though, that she made the cut
over
off?
the moon.
Yeah. Nice.
Absolutely over the moon. And it was like, we've done it. Like, completely self-supported with an extra like 13 hours of driving onto to it as well.
Yeah, that's rough in itself.
Yeah. I think in total there was like 23 hours of driving over 2 days.
Taking in turns? Driving?
Me.
Jesus.
Once we'd finished and I knew that driving wasn't going to mess her up, I was like, okay, you can have a stint on driving, but you sleep first in the car, get your sleep. She did like an hour, and she was like, no, I'm wide awake now. Yeah. And I was like, good, because I'm flagging.
Yeah.
So then I was like, you can take over. And I think I had like another hour sleep, and then I was just up then, and I was just feeling sick. So I was like, that's me. Like,
let's go.
Just get us home, and then
into work at 9 a.m.
So I had to be at work for 8 o'clock the next morning. She was in work for 9, I think. Both did like.
What time were you home at?
I didn't get home because I do a shift at the gym, so I did 8 till 12 at the gym. Then I had clients in between, so I was doing PT and stuff. And then I go to gymnastics coaching from 4 till 9, so I didn't get home till like 10 p.m. And then I had to do the same thing the next day, so I didn't get a lay-in until, well, it would have been like the end of the week, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think it was like the Friday before I had a proper night's sleep.
Yeah, it's rough. I'm still carrying the wild horse sleep deprivation and the opponent sleep deprivation. It's just rough to catch up on it, right?
Yeah, it's not easy,
But
especially when you work that much.
Hats off, like.
Yeah, but we did it, and
No, nice.
Sprint finish. Never
fan of
thought
that.
I'd be doing
I love
that.
a big finish to some nonsense. It's the best. It's
Yeah.
the best.
I thought I was cutting it close because the week before I was pacing one of my other clients for his first ever 10K, and he wanted to get sub 60. I say he wanted to get it. I set him the goal of sub 60.
Yeah, but like you wanted to achieve what you said then.
Yeah, and we did that with 8 seconds to spare. Because he stopped off for a wee halfway round, and it was like, okay, we now need to make up this time, and we did it like perfectly. And I thought that was a close finish.
Yeah.
And that's for like an hour.
Yeah.
So for 24-hour event, doing like.
And I'd say
4
that's
seconds.
great pacing, right? Because you've got the more, like they've done as much as they can, but like for 24 hours, 4 seconds is wild.
Yeah, it was really cutting it fine, but over the moon.
But also
with it.
perfect, full value. Love
Yeah,
it.
full
Love
value.
It.
I'm gonna start using that with clients when they're close to their goal, because I know what I'm like. It's even like if I hit the goal I say I'm going to achieve, it's almost not enough sometimes,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, I could have done a bit more there.
Yeah.
But now I'm gonna go in with the mindset of like, no, this is full value.
That's
like,
what you went for, and you got every millisecond out of it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
So if nothing else, I'm taking that away from the podcast.
You take
today.
it. I stole it from Audax cycling, though, but I agree in all aspects of life, full value, innit?
Yeah, that's it. Right, wrapping it up then. The last question I ask, which you know about, and we've briefly spoke about off air. What is going to be your challenge for the listeners this week?
I would like the listeners to go into their gym, or if they haven't got a gym, find a suitably high surface, as high as the hip if they can get it, but if they might not be able to do this yet, so half the height if they can't, or any graduation, to do stand-ups with putting their foot up onto that surface and stand up and do 3 sets of 10 and do it once this week. And I guarantee you will become better at climbing and better at climbing up mountains. Because I did it for climbing, as I mentioned off air, and it has improved my mountain climbing so much. And it's just a lot of fun too. I did it this morning in the gym as I started back on legs, and it's like, I missed this. It's nonsense, but I love it.
Nice. That is definitely a challenge that I've not had yet. So
Well,
thank you for that.
I had lots of things to add to a challenge, but I wanted it to be in the vein of physical, and yeah, I just off the cuff. There you go.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's all right. If people want to follow your journey online, where can they find you?
I mean, I'm on Instagram as Plod TV. That's pretty much it, right? But you don't have to follow my journey. Just take the messages that we've given you. I'm just average man, having fun.
Amazing. Well, thanks again, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
No worries, and you too.